I cried almost every day for 4 years. I was ashamed to share what I was going through with anyone. Only a few people will be able to understand it. I felt that my life was nothing to write home about. I lied to my friends. I was envious of my peers. God, this is not the life that I want for myself. I started to feel like I was cursed. Hi, I'm Fortunate, and my YouTube page is all about sharing my very chaotic journey in life to med school, in hopes that whatever it is I share helps someone else. Because I would always say, when I used to go to the very challenging time of my life, it was videos like this that helped me get through it, and I want to pay it forward. Let's get right into it. So if you don't know me, I'm 26 and I had a 4-year delay before I got into med school. And what that looked like was I finished my secondary school at 15, and then I started to write entrance exams to get into med school. I did that twice, but I didn't get into med school. At this point, I felt like a complete failure. Now, let me paint the picture for you. So when I was in secondary school, I was an exceptional student. I was that student that everyone expected will get into med school literally like this. But when it wasn't happening for me, and I could see my classmates and my friends going to uni, and I was just the only person that was just sat in the house, I felt like a failure. In my head, I was thinking, oh my God, people are going to laugh at me. I even started like hiding things away from my best friends because I just didn't want them to know that essentially I was failing. I used to be really sad. I would cry all the time. In fact, I was probably depressed, but because in Nigeria, the term depression wasn't really used, especially where I grew up in Nigeria. If it was used at the time, I might have just classed myself as depressed. Because there were times where I would go to church and there was this really nice choir master. He would come to me and be like, Fortunate, I keep looking at you. You seem like you're sad. What's going on with you? So this was all going on. And then my parents like, okay, Fortunate, come to the UK. I said, wow, miracle. The fact that I'm going to the UK means that I can keep pursuing my dreams to go to med school, and it's going to be in the UK as well. I got into the UK and I thought, let's just give it a go. No need to wait. Let's just go straight into med school now. As I was doing my A-levels, I realized that I couldn't apply to med school like everyone else because I didn't qualify for student finance based on my visa at the time. And I said, yeah. If you don't know what yeah means, yeah is an expression that's used in Nigeria to show that a person is in serious trouble. I was like, oh God, like, what is going on? I just felt like one obstacle after the other, and I just felt like, what is that thing that's holding me down? I started to feel like I was cursed. If you're Nigerian, and you'd understand why I would feel like I was cursed, because there was this barrier, this stumbling block in my way, stopping me from getting into med school. I finished my A-levels at 19. I got the grades, amazing grades. I got 2 A stars and an A. So this was good enough grades to go into med school. Unlike everyone else, I had to sit in my house, go and find a job simply because I couldn't go to uni. I got a job as a healthcare assistant, and literally, I kid you not, I'm crying every day, especially when I go into hospital and I'm seeing all those doctors. This is literally my dream right in my face. And anytime I would get disrespected, because as a healthcare assistant, you're disrespected a lot by the patient, by the staff. Anytime I would get disrespected, or anytime a patient would assume that I'm a doctor because I'm a young looking girl in scrubs, and I would have to tell the patient that, oh no, like I'm just a healthcare assistant, and I would see how they would treat me so differently. One time I got sent to work in a particular ward. I walked into the ward. One of the nurses saw me. I was in scrubs, like proper blue scrubs. At the time, there was no distinction on the scrub on who you are. So obviously, as a young girl, the first thing that comes to people's mind is you're a doctor or you're a nurse. And I walk in and this nurse was talking to me really nicely. The respect was there. Then suddenly I introduced myself as a healthcare assistant and the respect just disappeared. And you can imagine, like, I went back home that night and I literally cried. I was like, God, like, why is this going on? Why is my life like this? It was horrible. But I would be doing you guys a disservice if I just came here and rant about my whole life without telling you how I got through that horrible time of my life. There are 2 things that got me through, and the second one is very practical, so you might want to stay around to hear the second one. Now, the first one, is God. I've got to give it to God, because if not for God, I would never have made it through. And the ways in which God really encouraged me at the time was, 1, words of encouragement from the Bible, like when you go through the fire, I will be with you. Things like I will help you, like the Lord bless and keep you. Like just reciting the word of God in my mind over and over again just kept me going, knowing that God doesn't fail in his promises and that whatever he has planned for my life, he will bring it to pass. Like those things really encouraged me to keep going. The second thing that kept me going was I would have dreams of the future. So there were two particular dreams I had. The first one, I had a dream and I saw myself as an obstetrician. I basically delivered a baby. At this time, I hadn't even applied to medical school. I didn't even know if I was going to get in. Then the second dream I clearly remember was I saw myself in final year of med school. I was essentially telling aspiring medical students not to worry. I was sharing my story of how long it took me to get into medical school, and the fact that I am now in final year means that, look, it's going to happen for you and that they shouldn't worry. That was one of the biggest ways that God would talk to me. And a lot of the dreams I had, I would usually share it with my parents, whether it was dreams about myself or about my parents. I would usually share it with them. And a lot of the time I'd seen those dreams come to pass. So when I had dreams about myself being a doctor and being a medical student, I held on to it so much because I know that I've had dreams and I've seen it come to pass before. Finally, timely word of encouragement from strangers. These were people that I don't know, they don't know my story, they've never met me before, and it's always very timely. It's always after I've cried the day before or the night before. There was one time I came back from work and I cried so much. It's so emotional for me because I remember just coming back from work, I went into the bathroom and I just cried because I was just tired and fed up, and I'm like, God, this is not the life that I want for myself. And then I woke up the next day and went to work, and I met this really wonderful lady. She didn't know my story, but then she just started to encourage me not to worry. She's like, look, like, don't worry, like, you're going to get to where you need to get to. She was sharing her story with me. She also moved from Nigeria to the UK, and she talked about all the struggles. She is a nurse. She talked about all the struggles that she had to even get to that point in the first place. Bear in mind, I didn't tell this woman anything because I was so ashamed to share my story with anyone, but she was just encouraging me. The second time, there was one time I was walking, I was going to the supermarket, I believe, and then there was just this woman on the road. She just started to encourage me. She's like, you look sad, like, you know, is everything okay? And then, don't worry, like, everything's gonna be fine. Girl, you don't even know me. You don't know me. If you find yourself in a situation where you're waiting for something and you just feel like everything isn't going your way, let this video be a reminder that, one, you're not alone. A lot of people have been through what you're currently going through and are currently going through what you're going through. Moral of the story is, if you're a person of faith, then continue to put your faith in God. Now you're gonna want to hear this one. The second practical thing that really helped me is having a clear timeline and a plan of what would happen. So I wasn't just doing everything blindly, okay? I chose not to go to university because I knew that, okay, if I wait 2 more years, I'd be able to apply to med school. So I knew what I was doing. I knew that there was a timeline that I was working with. So I wasn't just blindly wasting my life away doing a career that I don't really like. Like, I knew, okay, this is for 2 years, and then I'd apply to med school as well. So whilst I was waiting to apply to med school, I was brushing up my personal statement, I was studying for interviews, I was reading up on an application process, I was preparing my application, looking at what unis I could apply to with my grades. Like, I was literally planning my life, practicing UCAT. I was doing all of those things whilst having a clear plan in mind. And when it came to my eligibility for student finance as well, I made sure that I had all the right information. I spoke to my parents, we spoke to our lawyers. Like, it had to all be pieced together. I was working, I was putting 2 and 2 together, and at the time I was pretty confident that in 2 years time I'd be able to apply to med school, which is why I waited. Now, for some people, it might not be the case. You know, you might have to do a different degree, you might have to do something else in the meantime. Yours might take a little bit longer, but as long as you have a clear timeline and a plan of what you are doing in the meantime, then you should be able to get through it. Well, this brings me to the end of my video. Let me know in the comments if you found this useful, if there's anything that stood out to you or anything you'd like me to talk about in another video, then please do let me know in the comments. Or if you just found this encouraging, please like the video, leave a comment, and just, you know, show your girl some love, because I'm only human, okay? Like, I need love, I need subscribers, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right guys, thank you so much for staying till the end. I love you. Bye.